Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're doing okay. I'm gonna read through part of the article, but I'll start off by giving you a bit of an overview. We'll try to keep this one a little bit casual, really, because it's a bit of a talking point. And as most talking points are, there's controversy here. My opinion might well differ from your opinion, and if it does, well, you're wrong, I'm right. No, 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 only joking. So I do have some opinions in regards to this subject, but I'm not in an overly knowledgeable position to comment, but I'm going to anyway. This is in regards to new laws that have come into place as of today in Victoria, Australia. For those that aren't entirely sure, Victoria is a state within Australia. Melbourne is in Victoria. There's a couple of other major cities in Victoria too, but Melbourne would be the ones that those outside of Australia are most likely familiar with. In any case, as of today, some new laws have passed as a part of the Sex Work Decriminalisation Act, and essentially they've legalized street walking. Sex workers are now free to operate on Victoria's streets, and the reason for this new law or laws is in order to make the practice of sex work safer for those involved. I mean, prostitutes, for the prostitutes involved, mostly ladies, I would imagine, but not exclusively for sure. There are a couple of exceptions to this. I don't know what those exceptions are, but let's forget about the exceptions and let's just have a conversation as if it's now perfectly legal to prostitute oneself on the streets, any street that you care to mention in Victoria. Um, what do you think about that? Let's have a little conversation. What do you think about that? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Well, I'll tell you what I think. Number one, I'm confused as to why that would make it safer for prostitutes, for sex workers, for the women involved. I don't know why it would make it any safer. I mean, haven't we heard of a lot of murders and indeed serial murders and other kinds of assaults, including sexual assaults, including rapes, from exactly this kind of situation? Women, let's say women, it's not exclusively women, you've men too, male prostitutes, and also trans prostitutes. Um, haven't we heard like dozens of cases of serial murders and such where people rock up in their cars or trucks even, and then a prostitute jumps in, and then lo and behold, some massive physical or sexual assault occurs, which may include murder. Doesn't that happen like a lot across the world? Hasn't that always been the case? How has being a street walker safe? I don't get that part confuses me. Now I live in New South Wales, and in New South Wales and some of the other states in Australia, I believe the ACT at least, but I could be wrong. But certainly in New South Wales, brothels are perfectly legal, and they have been for decades, as far as I understand. I've never frequented one, never felt the need to, but they're entirely legal, and they're brothels. It's a place of business, so effectively it's a building. It's a building, and you go to the building and you do whatever you do. I don't know exactly what you do, but there'll be a receptionist there. Hello, sir. How are you this evening? Yeah, I'm doing good. Good, thanks. That's a safe environment to me. The women are, they're in a home, they're in a building. There are other staff there, there's other sex workers. I would presume some level of security staff, I would presume. There are other people in the vicinity, and it's a legal area for people to frequent. I would think that's safe for the sex workers. Walking on the street strikes me as unsafe. Being picked up by an anonymous car, an anonymous truck. Where's the safety in that? I don't get it. That part I don't really buy. But what do I know? These politicians certainly know more than me, obviously, and they seem to think that somehow it does make things safer for the sex workers, notably in the ability to report crimes against them. Okay, like, I mean, why wouldn't you just like legalize sex work? And why are you saying it's legal to promote sex work on the side of the streets. Like, why don't you just like nominate some properties, some buildings in which they can frequent? To me, that makes sense. Also, you're not allowed to discriminate against or refuse someone a service on the basis that they are a sex worker. So if you've got a nice posh restaurant and a couple of prozzies want to come in to have a bite to eat, yeah, you got to let them in. You can't discriminate against them just because they sell their parts for a few dollars. You're not allowed to do that anymore. And it's also an offence for sex work to be carried out near schools, care services, and places of worship between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. and on holy days. So after 7 p.m., have at it. Have at it. I mean, again, that's stupidity, isn't it? Stupidity. So what? You've got your school and they're having a sports night. You know, you've got the football team or the basketball or the netball team staying late to complete their sports games, and then whilst they're waiting for mummy and daddy to pick them up, they got Sandra flaunting her wares. It's not the best plan. I mean, 7 p.m. Like why not make it like 10 p.m., 11 p.m.? Why not just say, no, you know what? Anytime, 24/7, not near a school, not near a care service, not near a place of worship. You know, these politicians are dumb. I'm afraid to say they are dumb. I am much smarter than these guys. I don't even know anything about the subject, and I'm doing a better job than they are. The second round of Victoria's sex work reforms is due to come into effect in late 2023, when the sex work licensing system will be scrapped. I'm not too familiar with that. And that's about it. Yeah, so it's telling us that New South Wales decriminalised sex work in 1995, and the Northern Territory decriminalised sex work in 2019, relatively recently. So I would think there's some lessons to be learned, particularly from New South Wales, and of course in some parts of other parts of the world. You've got Amsterdam in Europe. I'm not sure if it's the whole of the Netherlands, but certainly Amsterdam, prostitution is legalized. But they have their streets, don't they? They have red light districts, which are perfectly legal, but they're specific areas for this kind of activity. That makes sense to me. That, you know, as opposed to just saying, oh yeah, you can flaunt your wares wherever you happen to be. That's too messy in my mind. But what do I know? And of course in America even, you have legal brothels in Nevada, don't you? The Bunny Ranch, do I have that right? Saw a documentary on that once. All right, guys, that's enough from me. I'm going to wrap things up here. What do you think? Do you think sex work should be legalized? I do. I definitely think sex work should be legalized. I have no problem with it being legalized. But to me, again, brothels, having a legal brothel, that makes sense. Having certain areas, certain facilities. Honestly, even if they're government run, even if they're like a not-for-profit centre, adequately, I'll say police, but I mean, adequate security for the workers. And in regards to protecting against attacks, assaults, sexual and physical assaults, but also in regards to making the punters wear protection, condoms, but also nowadays masks too. Anyway, that's enough of my nonsense. I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. If you do think this has been slightly worthwhile, please do show your appreciation, like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. And take care, guys. And if you're in Victoria, well, now you know how to make some extra cash.